thank you for joining me for Crochet for Beginners part 4. Absolute beginners. We're absolute beginners here. And I've got this nice sparkly eyeshadow on because it's New Year's Eve. Thought I'd get a bit shiny today. Just for fun. Okay, so we want to learn how to continue crocheting in a circle. So in part 3 we learned how to begin crocheting in a circle, but to continue crocheting in the round, as they say in the crochet patterns in the crochet community, to crochet in a round there's a bit of maths to it. You need to know how many stitches go in each round, because if you put too many stitches in the round or too little stitches, then the circle won't be a perfect circle. The stitches will either bunch up or gape. So I'll switch to the camera around to my hands and let's get crocheting. Here is my stitch marker and my yarn. I'm going to start with the magic circle method, as I showed you in the last video. So basically it's just a loose slip knot, and then you're meant to get that little guy. I'm trying to do it again through the camera instead of my actual eyes. Instead of looking at the actual thing. Okay, so there we go. Loose slip knot. Get your not your trailing yarn, your working yarn. And because I'm going to do single crochets, I'm going to do one chain here to seal the magic loop, and then single crochet. So I'm going to do 6 single crochets. Now I'll explain the maths of the circle method to get perfectly round circles so that you don't have lumpy, bumpy, gaping circles. I can't talk and count, that's 3. Now the reason I'm picking 6 is I want a nice small circle. If I was trying to put, like, say 12 in this circle, and then I tried to do the tighten the magic circle here, the stitches will be trying to fit all, like, imagine if there were 12 there and they'd all be trying to fit all up in this little circle and I'm trying to pull it tight. But if there were 12, I might not be able to get such a tight little circle. So where's my end? So to tighten the magic circle, you take the end tail bit and you pull as tight as you can to close the circle. And now it's a tight little circle. Okay. This one I'm going to show you. I'm not going to close the loop with a slip knot. I'm going to work in continuous rounds. So that's what you'll hear you'll read in a pattern, working in continuous rounds. So that means you don't join up to the first stitch with a slip knot. Now, here's where I like to bring the stitch marker in. Now I got 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when I pull the yarn tight, I usually have trouble finding this 6th stitch, or the first stitch in the round, not the 6th, the first. Now you don't want to work into that first chain that you made. I need more coordination to do this. So I'm going to, no, actually I want to put the stitch marker in my first stitch. First I'm going to work in the first stitch. Now to know what number of stitches the magic mathematical method it's better if I wrote it down in a diagram, but basically you do 2 stitches in every stitch around in round 1. No, wait, round 2. So this was round 1, that first 6 stitches. So I'm going into the first stitch of those 6 stitches. Come on. Crochet for Beginners. I should make a little title sequence with a theme song. Crochet for Absolute Beginners. What am I doing? Okay, don't crochet with both strings. Okay, you want to make sure that your tail is not the yarn you're working with. You want to work with the actual ball of yarn. Okay, so I'm going to complete my single crochet. And whenever I do the first stitch of a new round, I put this stitch marker in the first stitch like so. Seal him up. Oh, I did sparkly nail polish for New Year's Eve. Happy New Year, everyone. Tentatively happy 2021, everyone. Okay, so the maths here is that we do an increase in every stitch around. An increase, if you read it in your pattern, your crochet pattern, it just means you will be putting 2 stitches in the same stitch. It's just shorthand for writing 2 stitches in the same stitch. This is alpaca yarn, so it's an alpaca blend, I believe. So it's just peeling off a little bit. Anyway, okay. Now I'm going to go into that same stitch I just worked into. Put a second, whoops, go around the hook. The second stitch into that first stitch there. So now we've got 2 stitches in the first stitch. Now we have to put 2 stitches in every stitch around. 1 and 2. It is vitally important that you don't lose count. That's why I have the stitch marker there, because if I'm not counting, if I'm just going, okay, just 2 in every stitch around, and by the time I get to the end, make sure you're not just putting 2 stitches the whole way everywhere, just continuously in a spiral, because that's the wrong maths. That's not how we get in even numbered circle. A perfect circle in crochet. Alright, I'm almost at the end. So then, to make sure that you've got the right number of stitches in each round, you go back and you count them. If you're not confident that you've done it right. If you're confident that you've done it right, keep going, and you'll soon see whether or not you've done it wrong. Because let me tell you, every time I stop counting my stitches, I make a silly mistake. I lose concentration and end up with either too many stitches or not enough stitches in the round. Usually I have too many, and it ends up being bubbly and wonky and not a perfect circle. So if you do make this mistake, you will see that you've made a mistake and you'll have to go back. And what do we call it? Frogging the work, because we rip it the stitches out. Okay, now while you're working into the magic circle, it will loosen. As you can see, the hole got tight, big again, and we can just pull it. Not that. Pull that one. Okay, pull the tail. You can pull it tight again. In order to keep it tight, you will wind this tail end around these stitches here, over and over, to anchor it, kind of like knotting it without knotting it. I don't know. There are different methods you can use to tighten your what's the word? Structures? I don't know. It'll come to me later. Seal the circle? Anyway. Okay. Yeah, there are other methods. You can look them up. But basically I just do the wind around these. Follow these bumps of stitches that I've made. Wind it back and forth. Okay. We've made it back to the first stitch of the round we just did. Okay, what I do now is I'll remove the stitch marker, and the stitch marker stuffed up my nail polish again. Okay, I crochet 1 single crochet into this first stitch of the next round. I put the crochet marker here into the first stitch of the next round because I don't want to lose him, okay? Remember, this loop is not a stitch yet. This first stitch is that guy there, just next to your loop, your hook. Okay, now the maths here is that we're going to do for round 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet followed by an increase, which is 2 single crochets in the same stitch, 2 stitches in the same stitch, and then a single crochet, and then an increase, then a single crochet and increase. So the pattern, instead of being 2 in each stitch, it's 1 then 2, 1 then 2. And then for the round after that, you do 2 single crochets followed by an increase, 2 then 2, 2 then 2, if you get my drift. And then the following round will be 3 single crochets followed by an increase. So then you do 2, an increase stitch is 2 stitches in the same stitch, and then you go 3. So that basically you're going to always have your increase stitches at an even interval around the circle, and that's how it will make a nice round circle. Although sometimes you can get like little pointy bits where the double stitches are, those 2 stitches are in, but there's another tip to avoid that, but that's not for absolute beginners, so I'm not going to mention that right now. I can show you some examples. I'm going to make up some examples of what it looks like with too many stitches in the round and not enough stitches in the round. Here are 2 not perfect circles. We have in blue too many stitches in the round trying to fit, and it's becoming a wonky, lumpy potato chip. Not quite a perfect circle. It's hard to see the dimensions in this light, but it's basically not sitting nice and perfect. It's got a lump. Bit of a lump. In red here we have not enough stitches in the round, and we're making a little bowl shape. It's not sitting perfectly in a flat circle. It's becoming a bowl. But what if you're trying to work a bowl shape or work up with your crochet rounds? Well, instead of putting less stitches in the round, what you will do is just not increase from the point at which you want to make the stitches go up, more like a column. So you work your perfect circle with the right amount of stitches in each round until you get to the size you want for your basket or your toy or whatever you're making, and then stop increasing the amount of stitches mathematically with the formula I mentioned earlier. And I'll explain the formula a little better in my blog, so stay tuned for the next blog post on my website, fullcupwellness.com. So after you finish working around your circle, you just stop increasing and you do the stitches, each single stitch, a single stitch in each stitch around. Just keep saying the word stitch over and it won't sound like a word anymore. Alright everyone, I hope you have a really great New Year's Eve. Enjoy your time and stay safe. I want to see you all actually survive the new year. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hit like, subscribe, and check out my website, fullcupwellness.com for more. See you next time.